no doubt there's lots of positives about the UK economy. But at the moment, those positives are overshadowed by two immediate problems and challenges. One is the inflation challenge. That's very apparent and will be with us for some time. And the other challenge is that the economy looks like it's already starting to lose momentum. And the danger is that loss of momentum will continue as the post-pandemic rebound wears off and as policy tightening starts to feed through. So yes, there are positives, and indeed the labour market data this morning shows many jobs still being created. But despite that, the two big challenges we face are an inflation problem and a likely slowdown in the economy as the rebound wears off and as the policy situation sees further tightening.
The government's been very keen to emphasise that it wants to be a tax-cutting government, that it wants to spur growth and economic activity through a lower tax agenda. Yet also it's saying that it wants to be very careful about when tax cuts may come, because I suppose to some extent they may be inflationary in and of themselves. How do they balance those two sides of that equation?
All right, there's two issues here of monetary policy and fiscal policy. Monetary policy in terms of the Bank of England and interest rates and reversing their printing of money. Now, the Bank of England has in many respects handed the government a hospital pass because the Bank of England has mishandled monetary policy in the last year or so. Now, monetary policy is being tightened with interest rates set to rise further. But monetary policy and fiscal policy are not like different ends of a seesaw. Because fiscal policy can ease doesn't mean monetary policy needs to tighten more. Because monetary policy is going up doesn't mean fiscal policy needs to go down. And that leads on to the debate that you're asking about fiscal policy, which is government spending and taxation. The view at the Treasury, and I would say in number 11, and this is permeating, it seems, to the Prime Minister as well, is that you can't really go ahead with easing fiscal policy through tax cuts until you're convinced that monetary policy is working and that inflation is starting to peak and starting to come down. So there is now a lot of pressure, I would say, on the Prime Minister to reserve and keep in store the tax cuts for the future. My view, however, would be that the economy is already slowing and tax cuts should take place sooner rather than later. It is true that we are seeing a tax cut in some respects next month when allowances are going up. That's very good news. We are seeing some help to people in terms of helping them with their fuel bills. That's good news. But the squeezed middle, shall we say, and more generally across the economy, people are facing difficulty with their wages being squeezed. I think tax cuts there would help without exacerbating or making worse the inflation situation.
So what sort of tax cuts should the government be looking at? Of course, they've already said that they want to cut income tax by a penny in the pound in 2024. Should that be higher? Should that be sooner? But also, they're going to be raising corporation tax next year from 19 to 25%. Quite an extraordinary rise in corporation tax. Should that be reversed?
But we've seen some tax increases, as you've announced. At the same time, we've started to now see the Chancellor sensibly start to backtrack in some respects. He's had 3 fiscal boosts this year, and therefore that's starting to see some help provided to people. In answer to your question, let's split it into 3 different groups. One is temporary, timely and targeted help to those people most in need to help them with the current cost of living crisis. That's already happening. Some of it has yet to fully feed through. That's good news. The second area is help to offset the impact of higher fuel prices. Strangely, the government decided to go down the route of £400 to every household. I thought they should have gone down a different route, such as cutting VAT on fuel, cutting fuel duty, even temporarily suspending environmental levies or so. So something to offset the tax impact of higher fuel prices. And the third area is the one you're asking about, the more general situation. And there, I think the case is to cut income tax and to suspend next spring's planned increase in corporation tax. But the Prime Minister's position, backed by the Chancellor, is that they will not go for the income tax cut until they are convinced that inflation is trending down. And as yet, they haven't really committed to do anything to reverse next spring's planned increase in corporation tax. So some help already provided, timely, temporary and targeted. That's good news. They're trying to offset higher fuel prices. They're not doing it in the most effective way, in my view, and they could do more. And then the more broader picture about cutting income tax at some stage in the future and maybe not increasing corporation tax as is currently planned.
Of course, you're saying we desire tighter monetary policy. That's the purview of the Bank of England. Just in our final 20 or so seconds in this conversation, Gerard Lyons, is the Bank of England currently up to the job?
Well, the Bank of England's made many mistakes. The challenge is two wrongs don't make a right. Having been completely wrong for the last 18 months in having put the foot down on the accelerator when they should have been putting it down on the brake, the danger is they get it wrong now by putting the foot down on the brake too aggressively, too hard, and that hits the economy. So whether the Bank of England's up to the job, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm very wary of giving a yes to that answer.